Yeah, we might have just witnessed the worst pay-per-view of all time. We just saw yet another Sean Strickland performance where he talked all this shit in the lead up, you know, talking about doing the man dance, having a war, but once again, nothing. Insert that iCarly MMA meme. But Sean also did show incredible toughness, so my question is, should we respect Sean, or is it time we call him out on his bullshit? We're gonna talk about all this. We knew this was going to be a bit of a stinker going into it, right? We were not very excited because even the main card was looking weak. I mean, the prelims were all right. There was a bunch of debuting fighters, but I was decently excited for the main and co-main event, and in the main event, it under-delivered. It wasn't a great fight, with Sean Strickland never really getting going. Like, Sean Strickland the whole time was just seemingly willing to just lose a decision, and I don't know if this is because of the rumored staph infection Sean Strickland had been apparently dealing with this whole week, but I don't know, because he just did not look himself. He did not put much volume on DDP. He did not do as good in the first fight, but I don't want to take anything away from Dricus, because this could also be because of Dricus, you know, overall improving. He looked very good in this fight. I thought this was one of his best performances. I talked about how the Israel Adesanya fight, I thought he looked decent, but I didn't think he looked as good as he did against Whitaker or Sean Strickland the first time. But I gotta admit, this time he did impress me, and yeah, credit to Dricus. DDP was clearly trying to set up that head kick up top, right, with the lead leg, which is something I believe he tried to do in the first fight, and is something that I said in my prediction that he should do, because Sean Strickland, I think in my opinion, clearly has a weakness when it comes to these head kicks, unless it comes to throwing them. Just because of his style, like I've talked about this in past videos, so I don't want to keep going on about his defense. I've broken it down. It is mostly reactionary, but it isn't technical, right? Like, if you get a guy in there to set up a shot like Alex Pereira, he will get knocked out. That is what you have to do to Sean Strickland. And if you have a guy intelligently setting up shots like Dricus did try to do, that is your best way of knocking him out. But look, at the end of the day, he's so tough, so it's hard to knock him out. I mean, he's so tough that in round 4, Sean Strickland broke his nose, and what does he do? He doesn't even blink. Like, I stubbed my toe, and like, I show more pain than this. He's against the fence, and he clearly moves his nose back into place. Like, I'm laughing just thinking about me doing this. Like, holy shit, like, that is insane. That is insane level of dedication. It just goes to show you how much Sean Strickland did want it, even though he didn't perform his best at all, and even though he wasn't pushing forward. So, like I said, I don't know if this has something to do with the staph infection. I heard him say in the corner that he didn't have this shit or something like that. I don't know if that's referring to injury, staph infection, but like we always say, look, we can make a million excuses. Like, this is the game. I'm sure Dricus came in with some sort of injuries himself, and look, sometimes it's your night, sometimes it's not. You can't really dwell on it. MMA is so crazy that, you know, you can't expect everybody to always be at 100%. These things are gonna happen. You gotta kind of adjust to it. DDP won this, I thought, 5 rounds to 0. I thought he did very good, and Strickland, I think he just should have thrown the right hand a lot more, like his coaches were saying, because it was landing at times. I think he should have tried to maybe double up on the jab. You know, I mean, there's so many things technically you could talk about that, you know, maybe Sean Strickland could have done better. I think half of this was because of how poor Sean Strickland was, but I think the other half had to do with Dricus Du Plessis looking very good. And I actually think Yuri Prohaska said it better than anybody. Congrats, Dricus Du Plessis. No technique, no rhythm, but 200% activity and pressure, especially like a champion. That was something inspirational. Bro hit him with a GSP level backhanded compliment. Like, Yuri here is basically saying, I am impressed by how ass you are that you actually won the fight. Like, somehow you keep managing, and this is basically what everybody says. It's what Dana White says. It's what, you know, Israel Adesanya said, even what Robert Whitaker said. He fights in, you know, look, I'm not gonna say it's ass, but he fights an awkward style. Like, nobody is going to be able to replicate what DDP does. It's like a weird new style of fighting, like, almost. He's just like fights like I don't even know. And DDP looked like he was trying to get that Alex Pereira fight, which is a fight that we've heard about for a while, and, you know, very little. I mean, this is something that was talked about by Alex Pereira at one point, moving back down to middleweight. Dricus even entertained going up to light heavyweight at one point. I don't really want to see this fight. I think Alex Pereira could probably set up a shot against Dricus Du Plessis to knock him out. That's just my opinion, especially if it's at 205. I mean, that would just heavily favor Alex Pereira. Of course, Pereira has Magomedov alive, and we'll talk about that as we get closer to that pay-per-view. But the real fight I think we're going to see next is DDP versus Hamza Chimaev, which Hamza was not there. We did not get a face-off in the cage, but it's pretty clear as day. He is next. I don't know when we're going to see this fight. I hope it's not Abu Dhabi. I hope we do not have to wait till October to see this fight, because I'm excited now, honestly. In the beginning of the year, this was one of my top 5 fights that I wanted to see this year. Dricus Du Plessis, Hamza Chimaev, it needs to happen. And where does Sean go from here? I mean, Sean is in a tough place, because Sean has now lost to Dricus Du Plessis twice. I mean, he lost to Jared Cannonier. I mean, I guess what is he going to do? Fight the new up-and-coming contenders? He fought Nasruddin Imavov already, fought Israel Adesanya, but honestly, I wouldn't mind an Adesanya rematch. I know it seems weird because of where Adesanya is at his career, but look, there's beef there, there's a history. You know, some people say that Adesanya did not look himself in that fight, and some people say that, you know, Adesanya was more injured in that fight and was not 100%, and that's why Sean Strickland won. So it's still an interesting matchup, and Sean Strickland looked terrible in this fight, so kind of 2 terrible performances coming together. Honestly, I'd even argue Israel Adesanya had a better performance against Nasruddin Imavov, getting knocked out in the second round than Sean Strickland had in this fight. No offense, Sean, because look, I supported Sean. I said, look, I thought Sean was going to win. I thought he was getting overlooked. Clearly not. He got got battered throughout 5 rounds, and it was not even close. Do I think that Khamzat could beat Dricus? I don't know, dude. I really don't know. It all depends on that first round. I think if it gets past the first round, I got DDP, but also at the same time, I think Dricus doesn't have the best gas tank either. He gets tired when it comes to the wrestling. It might not be all that bad of a matchup for Khamzat Chimaev. I don't know. I want to think about that when we actually get closer, because honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if this fight doesn't happen with Khamzat Chimaev's history of pullouts and, you know, leaving fights and just not showing up. I know that Khamzat had health issues. I'm not, you know, just trying to say he's scared or anything, but I'm just saying it seems like something's always going wrong, especially Ramadan too, and it's just going to be a whole thing. And I think the UFC is going to do everything in their power to try to get Khamzat Chimaev to win, and I wouldn't be surprised if they're trying to get DDP for a quick turnaround or something like that, just to get him injured like they did to Aljamain, because Khamzat's going to be a big star if he becomes a champion. I mean, just look at his engagement on social media. Weili and Tatiana Suarez also fought in the co-main event, where we saw, you know, Zhang Weili pretty much dominate Tatiana Suarez, which is what I predicted. I said to you guys, I said, look, I thought Suarez was going to win the first round and Weili was going to come back. You know, Suarez was going to be gassed and have not much for her. I've been saying to you guys, I've seen some people post this online about, you know, how, you know, wrestling is dead and wrestling's overhyped. Look, wrestling's not overhyped. Wrestling is very important. You know, you need to know how to wrestle, and especially if you use it correctly, you're going to be unstoppable, and that's just what it is. But you can't only rely on that, and this is why I've been quote-unquote shitting on Bo Nickel for the past 2 years, but since before his debut. I've been saying, let's not get ahead of ourselves. Bo Nickel could be trash, and I still think this. I mean, he didn't look good against Paul Craig. If he fights someone that could stuff a takedown, like imagine if he fought Dricus Du Plessis, I don't think at all Bo Nickel's ready for that level at all, and he's in the top 15 right now. He's ranked number 15, so he's getting to that level within the next 2 years. Do I think Bo Nickel's ready for that? No, he could definitely get better, but where we are right now, no, not at all. And I'm saying this to say the same thing with Tatiana, where I said, look, I think she's going to lose the fight. However, I do think that she will come back better. I really do hope so, because I feel so bad for Tatiana with the injuries she has dealt with. I mean, it must be so defeating. We talked about it with Dominic Cruz. You know, he recently retired from just getting tons of injuries and wasn't even able to have his retirement fight. That's how bad his injuries were. And it's like this with Tatiana. I mean, she's been out of the cage, you know, for years, has only 10 fights in the span of being signed to the UFC for well over 5 years at this point. So you got to wonder, like, does Tatiana even want to get back? Like, does she even want to fight if her injuries are this bad? Who's to say she doesn't go through another training camp and gets injured? I'm not hoping for this at all. I do honestly think that Tatiana, as long as she stays healthy, I think she can come back, and I also think that she could become a champion. I think if she used more kicks, you know, used more teeps, and was able to keep the distance a little bit better, I think that she would have had a lot more of easier time with Weili, because she wouldn't have been forced to wrestle the whole 25 minutes. She would have been able to have some breathing room and have some space away from Weili, so she wasn't getting hit. And yeah, Weili just looked very good. I know a lot of you doubted this pick, but it looks like we're going to see Valentina Shevchenko versus Zhang Weili next, which I'm excited about. As a fight that I wanted to see this year as well. If I were to rate this pay-per-view, I'd probably give it like a 5 out of 10, honestly. Just because, like I said, first of all, the matchups weren't there in the first place. No hype behind it, and it did not deliver. So right off the bat, 5 out of 10, maybe even 4 out of 10, honestly. We could probably give it even lower. But am I overhating? Let me know in the comment section below. I'm going to review the full pay-per-view from bottom to top on my live stream today at 4 p.m. I'm going to break down my predictions, review what I got wrong, why I got it wrong, how I got it wrong. You guys are the best fan base in MMA. Hit the subscribe button, like, comment, and share, and I'll see you guys in the next one.